Meeting to order. Any adjustments to the agenda? Oh, okay. No, I was calling the order and then I was just gonna do, oh yeah, approval is next. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, now on to the approval of the agenda. All right,
I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
All right, is there a second? Second, moved by Vice Chair Rowland and seconded by Commissioner Teoflack to approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. All right. Also, Commissioner Chan emailed me saying that he was going to be late to tonight's meeting, so just so everybody knows. On to the consent agenda. We have for the February 28th, 2023 claim vouchers totaling $87,984.23 and May 2nd, 2023 claims vouchers totaling $1,281,518.73. Vice Chair Rowland.
I only had one question. This is not questioning the actual expenditure, but just understanding how it works. Academy Wood Recycling, we're paying like about $2,500 to recycle wood. Is it like toxic or burnt? I'm assuming, or?
Yeah, so that's the scrap material from the training grounds.
Gotcha.
So pallets occasionally, but mostly the OSB after they cut it. We try to recycle as much of that as we can and haul it up for the live fires.
Gotcha.
But there's a certain amount of waste that we recycle.
No problem.
Yeah. And the cost for that is typically shared across the consortium.
It's the only word when thank you. Learn something new every meeting.
Any other questions?
That one, what is the first due?
Yeah, Commissioner Mike.
What is the first due tablet maintenance? That's on page 33. Anybody have an idea?
Chief Isotelo, if you could go over what first due is, and then the tablets themselves or the maintenance is the tablets used for the software program itself. It's an operational program. Well, I guess I'll just continue. It's an operational program that gives data points when our crews respond to incidences using GIS map layering, and it has critical information pieces. So our crews will know stories of a building, what the square footage is, entry points, protection systems, those sort of things, what we used to call a paper pre-fire that has all that information in it.
So it's like a iPad
Yeah, and it's delivered on an iPad.
delivered on an iPad. So
Mhm.
when they say 70 first due tablet maintenance at $13,000, is that an upgrade or a version change?
It's the deployment of those iPads
Brand new.
themselves. Yeah, it's a new program. We countywide system, that Snow 911 supports, but we have a subject matter expert, one of our deputy chiefs, Todd Anderson, that would be happy to come at some point and give the board a briefing.
Yeah, because it's titled tablet maintenance, it implied that it already existed and that it wasn't a new deployment.
Correct. It's part of the deployment.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Looks good.
Any other questions? All right, Chair, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as it stands.
So moved.
Moved by Vice Chair Rowland, seconded by Commissioner Farnhoff. Any further discussion? None appearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. All right, motion carries. On to approval of meeting minutes. We have the March 7th, 2023 regular meeting, the March 21st, 2023 regular meeting, and the April 4th, 2023 regular meeting. Is there
Any discussion on those three items? All right, not appearing. The chair would like to entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes from those three listed as they stand. Commissioner Lawrence. Moved by Commissioner Lawrence, seconded by Commissioner Teoflag. Thank you. Any further discussion? None appearing. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. All right, motion carries. Public comment. We have one in the gallery. No?
No.
Okay. No public comment tonight. Fire chief's report.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, commissioners, meeting attendees, staff and guests. I have emailed to you some of the information in this report. You've also have written copies in front of you. A lot of great things happened since our last meeting, but it's historic that we have now two of our contract cities, Briar and Mount Lake Terrace, that had overwhelming voter support for annexation into the Regional Fire Authority. That has been a 22-year relationship between Fire District 1 and those cities and now our RFA. And it's great that the voter base supported those measures so overwhelmingly. I want to take a moment to thank some staff that contributed to those efforts, and there's many, but I want to highlight Ms. Hines and Chief Eastman for their work attending many meetings and some of the work with city staff that happens behind the scenes. I want to thank Chief Chalfont and Chief Maxwell for their attendance at meetings in Briar or Mount Lake Terrace. I also like to thank CFO Bothwell as well for work in discussions with the finance directors of those other cities to make those considerations happen. And the combined total of 5 informational public meetings that were attended. So all in all, I also want to end up by thanking you, commissioners. There was a lot of work and meeting time that was spent on pre-annexation agreements and other items. So thank you for your support. This couldn't have happened without you and without the hard work that was done by previous staff and fire chiefs and commissioners in the past. And as I look up and see Melissa Blankenship, I'll also like to thank her for her contributions in scheduling meetings and getting these things together. So this is a team sport. And this goes to show with the support of the voter base. So congratulations to you. Congratulations to us. Congratulations to both cities. Commissioners, we have I think a video possibly, and also some pictures of our roll-in ceremony at Keeler's Corner Fire Station 10 in unincorporated Linwood that happened earlier this week. Our new tiller drawn aerial ladder truck is now in service at Fire Station 10. There's some great panoramic photos of attendees, which included Commissioners Farnahoff, Chair Daniels, and Commissioner Chan. Just like to thank you for attending the event and thank you for your support in the budget to make this all happen. And Chief Isotelo, you were your own tiller drawn aerial carrying the water on this, a lot of meetings not so long ago. So great job. And do we have a video as well? Okay, let's go with the video if you weren't able to attend.
Was that a new recruit being held there?
Possibly. Thank you, Brian. It was a great event. That's a lot of people power that is pushing that truck into the station. And we want to thank our constituents that support us so well. And it's great to have that new TDA in service at Fire Station 10. The crews very much appreciate your support, commissioners. Thank you. And last but not least, myself, AC Eastman and Ms. Hines attended the Edmond City Council meeting and presented our 2022 annual report and compliance report last week. This is the fourth one that I've attended. I think it went the smoothest of any meeting I've attended down there in the city of Edmonds. The report looks good. I know you've been sent copies of that report. We'll look forward to, as staff, to go down together with you commissioners to meet with mayor and council on May 23rd. And with that, that concludes my fire chief report for this evening. I want to thank you for your time and welcome any questions.
Thank you, chief. Any questions for? Yeah, go ahead.
What was the final vote tally for the Malik Terrace and Briar?
I would have to look and see where it's at. I know the initial was, came in very high in the 90s for Mount Lake Terrace and it was trending up, and then Briar trended slightly down from original 80%. But Chief Eastman, have you looked?
So just over 77% Briar, 40% turnout, which is exceptional turnout.
Yeah.
And the city of Mont Lake Terrace is at 30% turnout and 92.17
That's really good.
as of 5/5.
Awesome. Congrats.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, chief.
Thanks, sir.
We're on to legal report with our attorney, Matt Paxton.
Good evening, commissioners. I thought I might liven up my legal report with just a small topic to discuss, periodically remind our clients about Washington's sunshine laws, the Open Public Meeting Act, and the Public Records Act. You've probably received training on these subjects in the past, so I'm not going to belabor the topic, but I did want to remind everyone that gathering in a quorum of commissioners is considered a meeting if you take action at that meeting. Now, of course, action can mean adopting resolutions or passing motions. However, other sorts of actions include receiving public testimony, deliberating, discussing, considering, reviewing, and evaluating. And so if you're doing that with a common interest to meet, and that common interest is related to the public, to official business, that would be considered a meeting. And so I just wanted to cover that briefly so that my legal report was not just me telling you what we've done in the last month. Hopefully that's a bit of a reminder, but also a good reminder to that as you meet in situations where there might be a quorum, to avoid even discussions about official business, to stay out of trouble with the Open Public Meetings Act. So over the course of this last month, our office has been assisting with the legal reviewing certain matters involving consolidation, including the plan amendments, related interlocal agreements. We've reviewed and commented on bylaw revisions, advised on compliance, that's Open Public Meetings, Public Records Act, public procurement statutes, HIPAA, disability laws. And of course, we're always here to advise on areas of potential litigation as they arise. And that's my legal report for this afternoon, or for this evening. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Matt. Any questions? Oh, Commissioner Lawrence has a question for you. Please unmute.
Hey, Matt. Last meeting, we had someone from the public come in and started out by denigrating a citizen, and then in the process using extremely foul language. So what can we do to remove that person from either speaking? I wanted her muted, but when I suggested that, she went on to with extreme invective toward the voice that was saying that. So what can we do? Automatically we can mute that person. How do you get them removed from the meeting if any of that's possible?
Yeah, so your public meetings are a limited public forum, meaning that there are some First Amendment rights for people attending this meeting, but they're not unlimited. And I've reviewed in the past either your bylaws or your policies, put it in the control of the board chair to make sure that there's order in these public meetings. And if there is a commenter who is causing a disruption, who is impeding the ability of the South County Fire to conduct business at this meeting, then that would be a situation where you might be able to mute somebody. But at the same time, I would have to know, I wasn't at this last meeting, so I would need to know kind of more about the context and how it was disruptive. And maybe that's some advice we can give you guys offline.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Commissioner Lawrence. Any others? Vice Chair Rowland?
Just to comment on that, I think the best approach is always to not engage with people making public comment, to let them say their piece, get their 3 minutes, and then be done with it, as opposed to try to talk over them or create, because that can worsen a situation. I know that some people are more sensitive to certain language than others, but at the same time, it is protected speech. So we need to be very careful about trying to tamp down on that, lest we put ourselves in a legal situation. It's just easier to grin and bear it and move on. That's my personal advice. But if there's something on the legal side that we need to know, I just want to make sure that we don't run afoul of civil rights or anything like that.
Thank you, Vice Chair Rowland. Matt, do you want to respond to that at all, or let it lie?
No, that's great business advice to kind of tag along with my legal advice. There is, what does the law allow you to do? There is certainly First Amendment restrictions, and then what ought you do? I mean, how do you get through these processes without being concerned about any legal action? I think Commissioner Lawrence was right on there.
Thank you. On to the union report with President Moore.
Good evening, commissioners. Can you hear me?
We can now.
All right. Tagging on with what Chief Hovis said about the Mountain Lake Terrace Briar votes, awesome turnout and great results there. But one thing I want to add is I want to really thank our political director and thank our union members that showed up and also agreed to fund the campaign to get that thing out there on the street and get it into people's houses. And so appreciate our members' hard work that they did there, and Zach especially attending a lot of meetings as well. So appreciate everybody that was involved in that. It's good for the RFA, good for our membership. Outside of that, though, we have coming up this week, I believe Commissioner Farinoff's going to be going down to Boise. He's going to be participating in the fire ops. So we're happy that he's joining us and able to participate in that. So we're looking forward to him coming back and hearing how that went. Outside of that, though, not too much going on. We just had some educational stuff that we've been going to, and myself, I'm just getting back from a much needed vacation. So this is kind of my first week back, but outside of that, commissioners, I think that would kind of conclude tonight, what I have anyways for you guys. So unless you guys have questions.
Thank you, President Moore. Any questions?
Just a comment.
Go for it.
Thank you, Pat, for the honor of going on this mission, and also thank you for including the words "I'll come back." I appreciate that.
Yeah, I promise you'll be taken care of.
I was there 12 months ago, not Boise, but over to Hanford, and I came back, and it was a great experience.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, President Moore. On to unfinished business with CFO Bothwell for financial policies for action.
Thank you, Chair. I don't have a presentation tonight. The policies that are in your packet are unchanged since the last time they were presented. So I'm here to answer any questions that you might have. And if you're satisfied with the draft policies, we are looking for you to take action to adopt those tonight. That's all from me.
Commissioner Teoflack.
Yeah, I don't have any questions and I'll be supporting the measure.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Chair would like to entertain a motion to adopting the comprehensive financial management policies as attached.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Farinoff, seconded by Commissioner Teoflack. Any further discussion? None appearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Motion carries unanimously. All right. On
Mayor?
to,
Just a point of order, there was a resolution attached to this. It might be reviewed to approve the resolution as stated.
Page 73.
all right, Chair would like to entertain a motion to approve resolution number 05022023-16. Resolution to adopt comprehensive financial management policies.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Farnhoff, seconded by Commissioner Teoflag. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Melissa. The interlocal agreement, ILA, with Snow County Sheriff Office and budget amendment for action with Fire Chief Hovis.
Be turning this over shortly to Chief Eastman to walk the board through this interlocal agreement proposed with Snohomish County Sheriff's Office to provide a law enforcement presence during the 4th of July holiday and its extended period of still fireworks discharge within the banned zone of the Regional Fire Authority. You're starting in your packets on page 74, and this also does include for consideration for the board for action tonight, and as well has a resolution at the tail end of this this packet. So with that, I'll turn it over to Chief Eastman.
So as we discussed the last board meeting at the end of last month, we talked about bringing this forward and then bringing it forward and putting it on though this is the first time you're actually seeing the formal ILA for the board to consider for action as we do the planning for the 4th of July and having the enforcement arm provided by SCSO. There's still a lot of work to do with what that looks like. And we'll be briefing the board as we go about the timeline. So nothing in the ILA except for the budget amendment resolution. Do we say how much time we're going to have officers, how many days we're going to do it yet? This year, the 4th of July is it a Tuesday or Wednesday? Tuesday, which is a little bit unique. It's not on a weekend. And so staff has data. We didn't do it last year, but the previous years before that. So the fire marshal's office, along with Leslie and her team, that includes Shawnery, we'll go through and look at what we've historically done in the past, work with Lieutenant McDonald from the sheriff's office, and hopefully get folks scheduled early based on what we think our needs are going to be based on this 4th of July season. Historically, we've done where we go the weekend before and then the weekend of the holiday. I think just from talking to staff, because it's a Tuesday, maybe the weekend, and they're working on those details. So the ILA is just for us to have an agreement with the sheriff's office and a cost. The budget amendment resolution says, because it wasn't actually part of the 2023 adopted budget, that it will not exceed 35,000. And I will tell you that historically we run between 14 and 20,000 is what we've done historically in the past. And so with that, the ILA, and starts on page 76, is virtually the same as the previous ILA, with the exception, based on talking to Rich, is the indemnification, which is on page 78, Article 9. And that's new, or language has been changed, and that's where the significant change. Other than that, the ILA is consistent with what we've done in the past. I want to highlight, though, if you go in 9A and 9B and go after the Title 51 RCW, Rich added negligent act or omission. And we put that both in for the county and for the fire authority. The original that we got from the county, I've been working with Chief Link, did not have negligent in it. That was an addition from Rich. I've sent that back to Chief Link. He has to run it through the prosecutor. He doesn't anticipate that being an issue with the prosecutor. And so as we move forward, I want the board to know that that still needs to be done on the prosecutor side as a formality, but Chief Link didn't expect that to be an issue. The one thing he did have issues, we reverted back to the original language of the document. So before you then is the ILA with the county, which will allow the sheriff's office to do enforcement work as we need, this specifically being the 4th of July. And with that, I'll pause and take any questions.
Vice Chair Rowland.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, whoever is assigned to these particular shifts, all they'll be focusing on is the enforcement. Is that correct? Or?
So they will be, active like they have in previous years in the unincorporated area of the RFA. The enforcement component becomes a challenging one for them to enforce certain things. They got to see it and some other aspects that go along with it. And I don't know all those details. And so I don't know how many tickets they write associated with this. But as we continue to work with the county council folks to work on banning the sale in the banned discharge of fireworks area. And based on the conversation we had at the last meeting, the desire to have a law enforcement presence in the unincorporated part of the RFA as we move forward with continuing our work to ban the sale and the other components of it, and realizing that the discharge band is actually a county band. It's not ours. And this gives us the ability to go continue to have conversations. And we are currently scheduled a meeting with those 3 county council folks as we speak. And so I don't know exactly when we say enforcement, they will be a visual deterrent. And as far as enforcement goes, there's some things that I don't always understand about when they can write tickets and all those other pieces. But I think we have a different, I know the conversations that Chief Ovis have had with Sheriff Fortney, it's different than it has been. And I think we're getting in earlier to where we can get, the goal is get the right deputies to do what we're asking them to do. And I think there's support there that starts with the sheriff, which I think the sheriff has been supportive of it before, but not like my understanding of where Sheriff Fortney is right now. So I don't know if that answers your question or if I'm skirting it.
I guess I'll ask it again. The money that we're spending here for these officers to be on duty when they wouldn't be otherwise, are their assignments and their duties going to be restricted to enforcing the fireworks ban, or are they going to be doing other sheriff related activities?
They will be doing work for us as a result of the fireworks ban. And really the time that they get deferred is if they have major events, just like anything else. But we'll be paying them. They'll be doing work on. They will be overtime employees doing work for what we're asking them to do work for, not part of the normal sheriff's office, beat patrol, and that work. They'll be dedicated to what we're doing and what we need them to do. Now, that doesn't mean if they have a bad event happen that we're not going to, but I think we understand that, would know that. But they would be, to answer your question, they're working for us to do the work we're asking them to do underneath the ILA.
Gotcha. And the sheriff's department, they wear body cams, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I did right along
You did
about a
right
month ago,
along.
so I can tell you.
So if we want
Body cams or not.
Yeah, most, I believe, if not all.
So if afterwards we wanted to review that footage or something like that through public records request, just to see what those interactions were like, how we could do things better, or if, action was taken, we can do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Eastman. I know that I bumped into Sheriff Fortney on the streets of Everett during a Dawson's Place event. And he came up to me and mentioned that about the fireworks and putting things together, and that he'd also been had conversations with other commissioners. So from the RFA, I was surprised, but he was still very positive about it, which has been good. Because when I handed those 3 letters to County Council Member Dunn, she also seemed positive about try to move forward with this. And I know that in my interactions with Councilmember Mead, he's also been extremely positive about moving forward with this. So I haven't had a conversation with County Councilmember Peterson yet, but do look forward to how that goes. Commissioner Farinoff, you had a.
Yeah, I'm just curious, and when we sort of buy the deputies in a manner of speaking, are they partnered then with our response units? Are we under a unified command, or are we just traveling everything through SNOCOM and then somehow they adjudicate which deputy goes to which call? How's the mechanics of that work?
So I know we didn't pair them up with anybody from us. Although I know they interacted throughout the evening or when they were here with the folks we had doing work. So it wasn't like they were out of sight, out of mind, but dispatch receives calls. A lot of the fireworks complaints get queued. And they get assigned and they have MDTs in their rig and deal with it in those fashions and do that work. So that's what I know. And I, not being the one that did the work with them before, I don't have any more detail than that.
Okay, thank you, Chief.
Any other questions? All right, and so this was for action. You're looking action to be taken for these?
Yeah, authorized chief to sign.
All right.
I got that next.
Motion. So as a friendly amendment, the recommended action is to authorize the chair to sign the interlocal agreement. Intergovernmental services.
There's a resolution for this,
Yes.
or is that have to be passed separately?
Yeah, that's something that's an independent document.
Well, it's in the recommended action paragraph that I was just gonna read off. Okay. So you're making a motion for the first one?
Yes.
Okay, and that is to authorize the chair to sign the intergovernmental services agreement between South County Fire and Snohomish County
No, it's fine.
for additional law enforcement services.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Teoflax, seconded by Commissioner Kenny. Any further discussion? Vice Chair Rowland.
Yeah, I just want to say I'm hopeful that we have better success this go around. I know last year I've had people right near my house lighting off fireworks in the middle of the street and watched a sheriff's deputy vehicle go down through there, turn around, not say a word, and just drive away. It was very frustrating as a commissioner to be out there, trying to warn my neighbors, letting them know, because I went out there just to let them know, because I didn't want anybody to get in trouble or anything like that. And then watch a sheriff's vehicle go by and not take any action whatsoever. I know we've spent, tens of thousands of dollars over the past 2 years to try to get some enforcement. And as of yet, there has not been a single citation written. There hasn't been any action as far as I understand. So I'm hopeful that at least this year we get some better traction on it. And I'm looking to, find some sort of substantive proof that this money is going to A, actually enforcing it, and B, is resulting in more than just patrols driving by, scaring people into submission, to not shoot off fireworks while they're within line of sight. Because it's an important thing here that we're doing, and the fact that we're spending more taxpayer dollars when they're already spending money for the sheriff's department to enforce the laws that they've voted to put on the books. It seems a little bit. It just seems like a double dip for this particular thing, and I want to make sure that it is successful. So I will vote yes, but I will be looking for results out of it, and my votes in the future will be dictated by the success of this one.
Thank you. Any others? All right. Chief?
Just going to say, in my conversations with Sheriff Wardney, he very well understands that the June 28th, June 26th, June 28th through July 6th fireworks sales that happen in the county really sets up our communities to have fireworks discharged, even though they're not supposed to. And he understands the root of that problem is eventually banning the sale of fireworks within the banned area. We had a discussion about it's the class 1 civil infraction that, it's in the county's code that's subject to a $500 penalty and subject to court restitution. He understands that. He'll be explaining that, or his team will, to the deputies themselves. And, as a resident of the RFA, and I certainly hope the same thing, Commissioner, that you'd mentioned, that we have some results, during that time period. So thank you.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, I just wanna. I may just chime in with Commissioner Rowland there. And that's why I'm asking about the organizational aspects of this. If I can see if you were staging deputies that were assigned to the RFA, because the RFA is budgeting for this particular activity. So it's first right of refusal, immediate response to an RFA identified issue versus I have you in the queue. And you may or may not get assigned to this depending on circumstances are going. So I do have to agree with Commissioner Rowland in the sense of how do we quantify this kind of action in the future? I see its necessity without a doubt, but I'm just wondering about its mechanics and how we sort of roll up a report at the end of the day. A measurement of success is what I would be looking for.
I could envision what you're talking about, just like we have with windstorms or, snow events, wires down, where essentially a service call or a fire single event, we hold in queue with dispatch. And then we're able to, through our fire operations center, when it's stood up, dispatch our own units to those calls in an order of priority that's appropriate to their availability and the nature of the emergency. For us, using Snow 911 as an intermediary to a separate law enforcement tactical frequency, maybe that's something that our team can consider as our incident action plan or IAP is developed for the 4th of July, especially for the day of.
And I'll add, there's hundreds of calls that come in.
Mhm.
So it's not, if we're thinking a fireworks call is going to come in and they're going to immediately dispatch them, they get so many.
Mhm.
I mean, the list of calls holding for firework complaints is 10 or 12 pages within the CAT system, right? So it's not as simple in that regard to say, okay, we got a fireworks complaint that's happening in Mariner High School, because they get inundated with them. And so I hear what you're saying, and I think that's part of it. I'll be quite frank with you, that's part of the team struggle too, right? So as they work through when to have this enforcement arm in the RFA and what days we need them and what days we want them, and they're very cognizant of the fact that we're spending fire authority dollars on an issue and a ban that's actually a county ban that's not lost on staff. And they want to make sure that what we're doing, we've got a couple years of history and things that they didn't like about it. I will tell you, staff says we don't need to do the week before the 4th of July because it didn't give us anything, right? And so I think between Leslie's team, Carl and Todd and the rest of the fire marshal's team, they want the same thing because they want to be able to show you what we did. And it's their mission to not have people discharging fireworks in the RFA. And for some of them, it's very personal. And so I'm confident staff will have a metrics to bring back, good or bad, right? They will bring stuff back and say, this part was successful, this part was not, because we've done that for the last couple of times we've done it. And they've been very transparent to saying this piece didn't work, this piece did work. And to be realistic about what the officers can and can't do based on, they did it, but he didn't see it or she didn't see it. So I'm confident staff will bring something back of what happened, what transpired. They'll be forthright, what they were happy with, what they weren't. And I think, at least from that perspective, you'll know what the experience was And then as we move forward, if it wasn't good, I'm not so sure staff will bring it back forward, right? I don't necessarily think the board's gonna have to say no. I think at the end of the day, our goal is to work behind the scenes to do what we really want, is to ban the sale. And this is part of that larger conversation as we move forward. So I hope that helps a little bit.
Oh, it
And,
did.
and I know, and like I said, staff is passionate about it. Shawnery, Carl, Leslie, Todd, I mean, they're as passionate as most of the commissioners, if not more.
Mhm.
So I'm confident staff will bring you back the metrics as they see how they can get them. And some of them will be good and some of them we won't be happy with, but they'll be the first ones to tell you.
Thank you, Chief. I think you painted a perfect picture in saying that there's hundreds of calls that come in, practically every 15 minutes. And that's, I think, where my anxiety point is. If we're so buried in the weeds, how do we figure out which are the high priority calls? And that's why I'm thinking in my brain, and you spoke my language, instant action plan, right? So in the instant action plan, is it discovered and acknowledged that we're dedicating resources to the RFA because the RFA has already identified it as a high priority call versus just something that gets lost in the shuffle and the regular background noise of 4th of July, because 4th of July is can be a very destructive and very impacting period of time, especially for folks that have PTSD and animals and these kinds of things. So that's what I would be looking forward to, is just how we're separating the conversation. It's not necessarily bring me back, some, evidence from the field, but give me an idea of how we're just, I think, more smartly utilizing the resource.
And I think I think staff knows where the largest offenders of shooting off fireworks are. And it doesn't take very long to figure that out. And so I think there's some preventative things that we can do, not just from rolling up in a command vig or an engine, but, bring a law enforcement officer along with you. So they're, and like I said, I think with Fortney support, that's not that we didn't have support before, but it's very different.
Mhm.
And I think I'm hoping that produces something that we're actually happy about.
I think the public will be happy to hear that we're leaning forward, that we're making an effort in an expenditure of funds. We've had public testimony here from our residents. They are frustrated by this as well. So at the end of the day, I applaud your efforts. And I think this is a step in the right direction. I'm not trying to nitpick. I'm just trying to separate and put a little bit more polish on the how. That way if I have to explain it to somebody, I can say, this is our approach. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chiefs.
Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries.
So for the second part of this, there's a resolution. As we stated that in the 2023 adopted budget, the funding for this was not in it. And one of the things that CFO Bothwell has asked is, as we bring things forward that would require a budget amendment, that we bring that budget amendment forward at the time we're asking for approval to do things, rather than 3 months later. And so before you is a resolution that Chief Bothwell wrote up and added to the agenda bill for a dollar amount not to exceed $35,000 for the effort of what we're doing for law enforcement in around the 4th of July holiday. And so with that, I'll take any questions, and probably more appropriately for CFO Bothwell to take them if you have any.
I believe we put together something similar a year ago, so it's not new entirely.
No, but I think what we're trying to do is from a staff's perspective, when we bring you something that's not in the budget, that we bring the funding authorization along with it. So we're not going back. And that was a request of Chris to kind of change what we historically have done. And this will be the first run at that. So you're seeing the agenda, the resolution to amend the budget as part of the ILA and I would expect that you would see this in the future at the request of the CFO.
what I meant by that was I believe last year we put out 34,000. So I think this year's 35. That's what I meant by not new.
I see.
Any other? All right. Chair would like to entertain a motion to approve resolution 05022023-15, amending the general fund to provide funding for 4th of July fireworks ban enforcement activities and emergent need. Moved by Commissioner Fahrenhoff, seconded by Commissioner Kenny. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Now we're on to new business with the sole source exemption purchase resolution for action. So with procurement and contracts administrator Shane Jensen and DC Anderson. Shane, you have the floor.
Good evening, commissioners. Before you is a sole source resolution. For those that haven't seen this type of activity before, this is what happens when we cannot compete a purchase based on a brand or a specification that we have. So this is impacted by any purchases over 40,000 on an annual basis per year. The one in front of you is the Knox products, which most of you are familiar with. We are updating our products over 3 years. But this year we have a $65,000 purchase that was in the budget. So we're seeking this resolution to be approved. So we can continue with our purchasing this year. The dollar value that is on the resolution also includes the purchases that we made last year and next year. Let me know if there's any questions about sole source or what this action is.
I have a question.
The cost estimate is for 120,000. Is that correct? Simply
Correct.
put?
That would be for a complete program. This year, we're only looking at 65 to be spent.
Okay. Commissioner Fahrenhoff and then Vice Chair Rowland.
Yeah, Shane, I know it's probably thought of as common knowledge, but could you just explain the role of the Knox box and how that benefits the fire service and our citizens?
Okay, not exactly my forte, but the Knox box is, if I get this wrong, please jump in. But the Knox box is a way to secure keys within the RFA so that we may enter public buildings and secured areas. So these keys are coded to us as individuals. So you have to have a special key to access the universal key. These keys, we have a standardized key throughout RFA right now. With the taking on of Mill Creek, they had a more modern version of the Knox product, and we're rolling out an update to our equipment so it will be modernized throughout the RFA.
Yeah, when you speak of a key, I'm kind of going back in ancient history for myself, but homeowners, residential, commercial properties, rather than busting down their doors, trying to access the building, we can use a key that's universal that saves damage to the structure, expedites the entry into a building during an emergency. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And that this product is a nationally recognized product, and therefore the sole sourcing of this product is because it's based on a national accepted standard. And this is something that we need to go with because there's basically hardly anybody else that's in that kind of business. Is that correct?
Correct. There's few people in that business. And then the way that the Knox business model works is there's no other place for us to purchase it. We have to buy it directly from Knox due to the region of the country that we live in.
Thank you, sir.
Vice Chair Rowland.
So you said there's very few in this business. Have we looked at, I mean, it seems like right now, the only area that currently has this electronic version is Mill Creek, which we recently brought on. Have we looked, since we're essentially talking about what, 15, 16 other stations and that kind of area complying to this one that we brought on, seems like that's the right time to look at overall, whether it would make more sense if Knox has competitors, what those dollar amounts would be to do everything as opposed to six or, a large portion. Just curious if that's been looked into.
So I can help with that one. So our region, for the most part, is Knox. In other words, there's a handful of providers that do the supers one, Knox is one. Here's the thing is everybody in the county right now, and Jason, correct me if I'm wrong, I think we're all Knox now. Now that Linwood's part of the RFA, we're all Knox. So we all have a key, all fire agencies in the county that work. Seattle can get, so it's not as easy. Like you could go and get super and get a better deal, but the cost to change every single box in the RFA would be hundreds of thousands of dollars that we don't normally pay for. The people occupancy pays for that in and of itself. The tumbler we're talking about is the current Knox box is a traditional key, right? And we store it, it's a key. You can open up. What we're talking about going to is electronic key. In other words, the key we have now, if it's lost and you find it, you as the person who finds it can get into any building. There's a lot of risk associated with that. For agencies that lose keys, because it's an accountable item, it's a whole lot of money to rekey every Knox box in your service area or the county or the state, depending on how you're set up. Where we're going with these new Knox box that Linwood has is these are electronic keys. So they're connected, and I haven't seen one. So just think techie is when they get disconnected, you plug them in, you go up and electronic opens the box. If you were to then lose that key and it doesn't connect back, it's just a piece of metal that's sitting on the ground and can't be used anymore. So by us transitioning from where we were, which is technology has been around since I've been in the fire service, many years, to this technology, by migrating here, what it does is it significantly reduces risk for us if we lose a key, right? So when we move to, and the goal is over the next 3 years, and I see Carl on, so I want to make sure I'm not wrong, is that we convert the little to this electronic version, so we don't have the key anymore. So if we lose a key, it doesn't do anything. It's not reportable. It just goes away and replace the key, which is huge risk liability reduction for the RFA. So I hope that helps answer the broader picture and why Knox is our vendor. That was established in this county right around the same time I got hired 27 years ago. And if you go look at how they're done, they're very regional. And they've stayed and yes, they have a monopoly, and to change it, it's a huge endeavor.
Does this mean that apartment buildings or whoever has these Knox boxes have to replace them with these E1s at their cost, or are we covering that? How does that work?
So Carl, I see you unmuted, so I'll let you answer that one because you're more intimately involved.
Sure. We're trying to look at avenues to replace these without it costing the building owners, because they've already purchased the boxes, and some of them were purchased not very long ago, and some of them have been there for a while. As we get down to it, as soon as we decide that we're going, then every new one that is purchased will have it automatically put in it. They will be paying for it up front. We're currently looking to try and get some grants so that we can do, let's say, all of Mill Creek, and then we can maybe get another grant and do all of Montlake Terrace, and try and do things in a orderly fashion so that we can get all of them. We have a pretty good, and Bob was exactly right. There are not very many super boxes out there. The super boxes are really actually very easy to break into. And so it's the Knox box is a spring steel. You could break it off the wall and smash it as many times as you want. You're not going to get that box open. Super also has sold twice and almost gone out of business in the last, I think, a year and a half or 2 years ago. And so the major portion of the boxes that are out there throughout are Knox. And Knox is located in Phoenix, Arizona, and have been around for a very long time. Bob is also exactly right about the keys. The nice thing about it is we gain control of those electronic keys, in that we can program those keys to be an hour,
2 hours, whatever we want, that they would be active before they have to be returned to the vehicle to be recharged again. So we can determine how long that key will be active. But once it's activated and as Bob said, dropped, that key, once it's picked up and that hour has gone by or the 2 hours has gone by, that key is useless at that point till it's returned to one of our rigs.
I guess my last question is, are there any risks associated with using electronics in situations where there could be fire and heat and everything over just traditional keys, which pretty much don't break?
So I will say that based on where the Knox box, so the boxes are usually set at a location we know. Could talk about First Do. First Do will tell us where the Knox box is one of the benefits of the program. Is it's usually on the exterior of the building. And if it's that hot and that unsafe and where the electronics gets fried, we probably can get access to the building without doing that. And honestly, at the end of the day, if we get to a place in time, we have means to get into a building, right? If that scenario were to happen, and I can't imagine I'm not saying it's never going to happen, but it's probably very unlikely. But if it does, we just use our traditional methods and go through the lock. I mean, we have means to go enter a door that is not bashing it and destroying it. We have through the lock techniques and K tools and A tools, and I may be dating myself again. And some other capabilities to get in if we didn't have access to the Knox for whatever the reason. So I don't think that's going to be a problem. And if we were in a scenario, we're going to have that have been the same if it was a regular key.
Right. And Chief also realized that the only electronics is in the key itself. The core that's in the Knox box itself is not electronic. There's nothing electronic about it. So in the middle of a power shortage or anything like that, the only thing that's electronic is comes out of our vehicle, which has been charged in our vehicle. Once it goes into the lock in the box itself, all it does is activate the key to be able to turn it. So it'd be no different than a steel key. If it was that hot, you wouldn't be able to go up there with a steel key either. It would be too hot for you to be there.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Just want to say thank you, Chief Federer, for the explanation. Chief Eastman and Shane, thank you for the discussion. I think this is very valuable. That's my only comment.
Thank you. All right. Well, the chair would like to entertain a motion, adopt the brand name sole source resolution for the Knox Company for the amount of $65,000. Moved by Commissioner Farnhoff and seconded by Commissioner Lawrence. Any other discussion? None appearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. All right, motion carries.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Committee updates. Bylaws Committee, Commissioner Rowland.
I believe we have all of the changes done and ready for review. We got some red lines back from the lawyers, but I'm not sure where we were with those. I don't think we've reviewed them yet.
Yeah, I think we'll need to meet to talk about those. There were
We're
quite
gonna
a
do
few.
those. Okay.
Yeah.
For some odd reason, when I tried to bring them up with my phone, I couldn't get the red line version. It was just the final version, so I couldn't figure out what the changes were. So
okay.
I figured there'd be some, but yeah, we're gonna get those integrated in and then we'll bring it back.
Thank you. Finance Committee. We don't have Commissioner Chan here tonight, so we'll go on to intergovernmental with Commissioner Farnhoff.
Yes, thank you. Intergovernmental met today, Tuesday, May 2nd, to discuss the success of the recent vote for Briar and Montlake Terrace. We are also putting our eyes towards in discussion the future of our relationship with Edmonds. Currently, Edmonds is under a 20-year contract with 14 years expired, 6 years remaining. The RFA in that time has added the MSO program, the Community Resource Paramedic program, and added also a 3rd battalion by bringing in Linwood. So these are all milestones by which, when we have a discussion with them in the future about just potentially incorporating them into the RFA, some real positive. We meet with the City of Edmonds Council, I think on the 23rd in a couple of weeks. So that'll give us an opportunity to sort of sense and figure out where we are going forward. Obviously, we just look at this as a discussion and so on and so forth. So the chiefs, did I miss anything?
No, I think that covers the meeting.
Very good. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Still 911 hasn't met yet. The finance committee will be in a couple of weeks, and then the general meeting will be after that. On to commissioner comments. Commissioner Teoflag.
Just a question I have for Chief Eastman, the, forgetting the term, but the work meeting next week,
Work session.
thank you. We'll be doing the cost of debt like analysis.
Very high level. So just to let you know, Jim Nelson from, is it DA Davison? Who has presented and done some educational stuff with the board. He sent me some things to look at, what the current rates are, the fact that we could do, I actually didn't realize this, but because we're now an RFA, we can do 25-year debt service if we choose. Whereas at fire district, we're limited to 20. So we have some very high level where he thinks the rates are at currently. We use today's dollars. We have some of what that would relate to from an approximation of what it relates to, home values, 500,000 up to $1 million. And, if we did 50 million versus 300 million and the increments in the middle. So we have it at that level, and I'm sure that's going to foster further conversation. And CFO Bothwell and I talked about it today. We can get into further in the weeds when it's appropriate to do that, but we'll have some high level. I'm sure you'll have more questions and want more detail than that. Basically what we have teed up is we took the phase 2 or phase 2 of the plan. In there were some timeframes as far as Gantt charts that look at, and it's a fairly aggressive timeline to do what was in the plan. We can go over those and do some highlights about how we cost it out. The fact that if we move things down, there's 4% escalators. We've got a chart. We can redo numbers as we decide, how we want to do this and how aggressive we want to do it. It's broke out by, our existing stations, our service gap area stations, our support infrastructure stations, then our contract city stations. So we broke it down in several different ways to provide options to have the conversation and have the totals based on the timeline that was presented in the CFP. Obviously that can change and we can update that as we go. And so we're starting there. And I'm sure there'll be several conversations to follow that, but that's kind of where we're going based on the dialogue we had. And I think the questions you asked, and I'm hoping that's at least close to where you thought this presentation was going to go.
Okay. Yeah, I want to see the best case guess of how much things will cost over the length of time that we want to complete the projects. Like, will my taxes go up by $500 a year for those 20 years?
So we have a lot of that. I mean, I have some of that now where it'll show what the impact is for, like I said, we have it now broke out 500, 600, 700, 800, 900,000 $1 million home. And what does that mean annually and monthly? So we have some of that from a approximation and what the, what's the anticipated mill rate based on what that is and how that relates. So I think we have at least the start of that conversation, and I'm sure we'll have further.
Okay, great. Yeah, the knowing how much we might have to pay in taxes for this, and knowing that there's a cost to it with the interest, it can help us understand with our budgeting, should we move 5% of our revenues into the capital facilities plan so that we don't have to borrow as much and have more taxpayer dollars going to pay interest. So that's what I'm hoping commissioners will take away from it.
I'm sure I'll be working with Chris the next couple of days to make sure we hit the mark.
Cool. Thanks.
Commissioner Lawrence, you have your hand up.
Yeah, this is first a question for Matt. Matt, do you have easy access to our videos, like from our last meeting that we had at the end of April?
Yeah, they're posted on YouTube. And so I know that Richard Davis has seen the video.
Okay, I didn't hear you. You cut out. Someone was talking. All I heard was about the video.
Commissioner Lawrence, that was me, Chair Daniels. And I was letting you know that Richard Davis has seen the video on YouTube. And so the attorneys can't see the video on YouTube that you were inquiring about earlier.
Okay, so Matt, it seems like the question here is basically, if I can understand what you're saying, is that it's kind of up to us what the standards, but I'm sure there's some guidelines. And then I guess the board would have to decide on what they're gonna stand for during a meeting. Does it kind of touches on slander? Though that person is, I think, a city Linwood council person that was being denigrated. But if it's a private person, that's slander, and then we would be not just a foul language, but she was running this person down and abusing her reputation, that we could get in trouble by allowing it, then we're condoning it. Anyway, I have a lot of legal issues, questions there about that and what we can do. And I hope the chair will direct our lawyers to provide some information for us to act on. Thank you.
Commissioner Lawrence, I can take this conversation offline with you and share an email that I received from our attorney, Richard Davis, on this topic.
Well, why not before this meeting? It wasn't, you didn't talk to me about it then. So, okay, thank you.
Yep. Anyone else? Commissioner Farnoff.
Yeah, I just wanted to recognize and thank Penny Coyne for bringing the lovely treats this evening and being a supporter of the RFA. And thank you so much. It's always a delight to see you. And I also wanted to reiterate something that was spoken earlier, but thanks to the union for helping us get through Briar and Montlake Terrace. And to all of those that are watching who take the time out of this evening to enjoy the commissioner hour as it is. And to all those folks at the station, and thank you to our senior leadership for guiding us through what was essentially really rocky waters. Chief Eastman and backing us up, Melissa Blankenship and Leslie Hines, just reiterating those names because I think it's important. And also looking forward to May 20th, if I have the calendar correct, that is EMS week, and we'll be doing an open house at Fire Station in Edmonds downtown. So any members of the public that are watching, bring your folks out and join us. So that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Like to Commissioner Kenny, what is the process for doing an excused absence for a commissioner? Is that a vote? Is that just a statement?
Maybe just a statement with no objection from the board.
Okay. Because I did receive an email earlier from Commissioner Chan that he was planning to be late, but now that we're wrapping up the meeting, he's not going to make the meeting. So I just wanted to make this an excused absence for him. So one thing that was covered earlier that our attorney brought up in his report was about the OPMA. It's important that we do RSVP to RFA events. Dish with the Commission is one. We have some other events coming up on Saturday, May 20th is an open house for the downtown Edmonds station. And then we have on Wednesday, the 17th, the City of Linwood annual report presentation. And on Thursday, May 25th, the City of Edmonds Joint Board Council meeting. And so those of us that are looking to attend, I'm hopeful to do the 20th, and I'm planning on doing the 17th and the 25th myself. And so there's more than 3 of us. We need to make sure that we RSVP. So that way, if need be, can be listed as a special meeting, or else if that 4th person shows up and does not RSVP, they will be asked to leave, because optics are that we could take action and violate OPMA. And then that is all that I have for commissioner comments. Thank you everyone for showing up. And with that, I adjourn our meeting.